All right, problem number 16. No non-prescription drugs or medicines without adverse effects. Therefore, no medicines with adverse effects are prescription drugs. All right, so first things first, can I identify the conclusion? Here it's made easy because we've got a nice conclusion indicator, therefore. So I know where my conclusion is, I know where my premise is. And so now my next step is to identify the categories of things, the subject and predicate terms of this argument. And one thing that I quickly note is that I've got 4 categories of things I'm talking about. We've got non-prescription drugs, we've got medicines without adverse effects, we've got medicines with adverse effects, and then we've got prescription drugs. Now, these kinds of arguments, I only get to have 2 terms. And I've got 4 different kinds of things being talked about. But what I recognize is that 2 of the terms are term complements of the others, right? So you've got prescription drugs, and we'll just say that that's P. And you've got medicines with adverse effects, and we'll just say that's A, okay? So those are the categories I'm going to pick for my argument here. So this is prescript drugs and medicines with adverse effects. Now, I'm going to always encourage you when you're deciding on your terms, if you've got term complements of one another, go with the one that is the specific category of things, right? So you've got prescription drugs, that's a specific thing, and then you've got all the other kinds of drugs, the non-prescription drugs. And so we're going to pick prescription drugs rather than non-prescription drugs as our term, because if we said non-prescription drugs, that's going to get funky. All right, so no non-P are non-A. That's my premise. No non-prescription drugs or medicines without adverse effects. Therefore, no medicines with adverse effects, no A, are P, prescription drugs. So again, the way we go about working this out is we figure out what are the differences. What has somebody done to this premise using aversion, conversion, or contraposition to make the claim that this statement here being true would make this statement here, the conclusion, also true. So we count up the differences. I see 2. I see we've got the subject and the predicates that are switched, and I see that the term complements are on each. So I've got 2 nons. Now, the easiest way for me to go about this is to start looking at the rules or the operations that I have at my disposal that allow me to either switch the subject and the predicate or replace both terms with term complements. And I know that conversion allows for that switching of the subject and predicate, but that wouldn't get rid of the nons. And I do know I can convert an E-claim, so I could apply that to this. But it only gets me kind of halfway there, and I don't have another rule that just allows me to replace the subject and predicate with their term complements without also switching them, which is contraposition. And that's clearly what's happened here, is this E-claim as the premise has been contraposed to generate the conclusion. And so we do get the conclusion, no A or P by contraposition, but you're not allowed to contrapose E-claims. So we've applied an operation to the premise that we're not allowed to, and that's what makes the argument invalid.